Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Best Books Ever. I'm Tyler, and today we are continuing The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, chapters 31 through 60. So, the second fifth of the book, three more parts after this. Yeah, something I was thinking about when I was reading this, and I guess as I finished reading this, was this sort of like a weird section of the book. Not for this book in particular, but I think just for books in general. Cutting a book up into five parts. The second fifth is like obviously it's right after all of the introductions. I guess reintroductions in this case because it is the second book. Um, but it's but we're not quite entering that like halfway point in the book yet where stuff starts to like fall. Um, so like with this section, um, I don't know yet, but I am foreseeing this episode to be a little shorter just because it's like, well, we're still sort of introducing things and there is some interesting stuff that happens, definitely, that we will talk about. But it still sort of feels like set up for the latter parts of the book. But yeah, just an interesting thing to think about because we haven't done that yet. I don't think we've broken up a book into five parts, but this book is very long. I think it's over 1,000 pages. So anyway, I very much like this section, in spite of what I just said. Um, so we will start at the very end, and the first part in a while, probably since the first part of the first book, that it has not been flooded with Denna. Pretty much nothing at all about Denna. We saw a letter that she sent saying, "Hey, here's why I disappeared." And everything she said made sense, right? She was leaving. She's trying to, brighter opportunities, all that stuff, right? Um, she does leave at the drop of a hat, so it all makes sense. And I feel like at the end of the day, we weren't really worried. It was more so just like, will they ever see each other again? And at this point, I think the worrying on that side even has grown less and less because it's like this is like the third time that she's left, and it's like, oh no, So, but the thing I want to talk about was the very, very end where we see Denna finally after I think it was like over a month at least. I think Kvothe said. But then we have the traveling, so it's probably been like a couple months or so, maybe more, since Kvothe saw Denna last. Out of nowhere, he's just getting off the elevator from his trip and sees Denna. They see each other. She immediately runs and embraces him in a hug. Um, Not much time though because the lift is well, it's not leaving, but it's going down. She can't miss it. She has an appointment she has to get on. She says, come find me here," which I was very happy about because when I was reading that and she said, "Come find me," I was like, you can't do this. Now it's mostly okay. It's mostly we're ecstatic. It's like, whoa, we did not expect to see Denna here. In hindsight, Ventus was one of the places that the one messenger who gave Denna's note to Kvothe mentioned, like on the way, but Ventus was not the place that he originally got the letter from, or at least that's what he said. So there was really no, in my opinion, any hope that we would ever see Denna here. Last thing on our mind, right? Not on Cole's mind because he's always thinking of Denna, but awesome that we saw her. But I was worried that she was just gonna end it with "come find me," because even though it's like, okay, clearly you're in like the city's still a big place though. So I was just very afraid that she was just gonna leave it like that, and Kvothe now has to find time to go on like I don't know, this like detective search to try to find her in this city. But we know where she's at, so we will see her again probably very soon. I'm sure Kvothe will, now that he's retrieved his loot, I'm sure he will make it his top priority to go and find her and talk with her and all that stuff. He did make note of a little bruise on her face. It was like above her cheek or something. So we can speculate as much as we want about that. I don't want to assume the worst, so I guess we'll just wait, see what happens. Hopefully she's okay, because again, very far, from Amir and all that stuff, and she gets into it with a lot of people. Obviously, we always see her with different people, so hopefully she's doing okay. But I can't wait, because clearly, hopefully the next 30 chapters, we will see them together having a conversation. Aside from that, on our main quest with Alvaron, the mayor, ends off with poisoning. Right? He says that Caudicus, it's probably like caduceus, probably, right? Because it's C. Oh no, it's C-U-S. I thought it was C-I. Caudicus, that's just how I'm going to say it. Was poisoning him. And now we have a little bit of a mystery there, right? Of like, why is Caudicus poisoning Alvaron? Even Alvaron rattles it off where it's like, he rattles off all these things that he's done for him under his employ. And it's like, why would there be any reason? I mean, even, Kvothe mentions money. Everyone has a price. It's like, but I'm like the king. Like, how much, if that's the case, how much money could someone be offering him to poison me? And then you have on top of that, it's like, who would be doing that? Again, he's the king, so I'm sure on paper he's got a lot of enemies, right? When you have that high of a station, there's always people jealous of you, right? Trying to get at you. So, I'm sure there are a lot of enemies, but very strange. Very strange he would do it. Again, I'm sure, again, in the next 30 chapters, we will see that come to an end, hopefully, right? I will say, I just always like mention this at least once. I have read this before, so I will say I don't remember though. Like, does like Alvaron ever say, "Hey, we got you"? I mean, I guess it will have to do with their test. Kvothe brought in some birds, feeding them the medicine, quote unquote, and I guess we'll see what happens to him, because I don't think Alvaron is like fully convinced, because he's like, well, I was sick beforehand, before Caudicus ever came under my employ. But what you've said, everything that you've said so far, I would be a fool not to take it under consideration. So hopefully, hopefully these birds die, because then that will prove Kvothe correct in his assumption. If they don't, he's in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of trouble, because he's not going to be able to explain it. Because now he's just accused someone who's been here way longer than him, right? Won't be a good thing. So hopefully Kvothe is right. Yeah. So that happened. Speaking of the Alvaron stuff, I guess we will keep with that. We finally learn, after what felt like forever, we finally learn what Alvaron wants Kvothe for, and it is to help him court Meluan Lackless. It is the only woman that Alvaron wants, for many different reasons. Right? He points out, like, have some sort of power, some sort of land, but also he finds her very beautiful, very intelligent. Even though he waves off the whole notion of being in love, he does say he has a fondness for her. Kvothe even brings up, like, oh, I mean, you could probably have anyone, right? You are the king. But in a moment of humility and honor, probably while having a past of irrehensible things, because I'm sure you have to do a lot of bad stuff to get in the position where he's at. But in this one moment, this one shred of humility, he does say that he would never wed someone that he has bought, which I thought was nice. I forget why he's like trying to keep it a secret, from everyone, because rumors make you go too quickly. Again, I think this really does show that he is in love with her. Because again, if it was just like an arrangement, probably wouldn't care as much. Probably wouldn't be as as delicate with the situation as he is. Because if it was just out of like necessity or for like power, money, or whatever, I'm sure he would just line them all up and be like, which one's the best? Which one is more advantageous to my position? But yeah, I like Alvaron. I think with this, he's being very smart, and again, he's definitely in love with her. He has to be. He is delicate in a very similar way that Kvothe is delicate with Denna. But aside from that, I do very much like Alvaron. He does have his more authoritative side, to where it's like, okay, hold on now, I'm king. You can't talk to me like that. But with the different conversations he's had with Kvothe, he seems very nice, very knowledgeable, very understanding, and he does also know how to talk, which is good, because Kvothe has a silver tongue, as we know, and so seeing someone who can have more intelligent conversations with him in some aspect, right? Because there's different kinds of conversations, right? Like there's actual just like knowledge on a subject, but then there's also like the way your words dance off your tongue is something different, where like the subject matter could be nothing, but the way you're saying it is interesting. So that's nice. That's nice. I definitely gotta keep an eye on Alvaron. Again, there's the pressing matter of the poisoning, and if it's real, if it's not real, that's gonna do something to the relationship. It's either going to shatter it, and I mean honestly, here's the thing: if this poison turns out to be fake, not fake, that was the wrong word, just false, right? Has nothing to do with why he's been feeling the way he's been feeling. It is actually full-on medicine. Kvothe was reaching, or again, he was just he was getting ahead of himself because he was trying to gain his trust. So he saw some dots, connected them when they weren't actually connected. If that is the case, Kvothe is out of here. I mean, I don't think they would like lock him up or anything, but I do think Alvaron would be like, all right, you're gone. Bye. Go back to Amir, or wherever you're from. Which would be a big derailment. Big derailment. A lot of wasted time too. Wasted time. He lost most of his belongings, and now, well, I guess Den is here. So, was it all for naught? Would he? When's the next time he would have seen Den if he didn't come here? But if it is true, if he has been being poisoned, that I think will be the last thing to really push him over the edge. Obviously, Alvaron has already offered him the position of like writing songs and poetry and stuff like that. So he's already got him in that much. But if he's right about this I think will just iron lock his trust in him. So we will see. We will see. I do not remember if this is real or not. I want to believe it is, because I just feel like it'd be so strange for Kvothe to reach that far and him be incorrect. But I don't know. Let us see. What else do we have? Yeah, I just have a couple more things about the Alvaron arc so far. Yeah. Speaking of, different types of intelligent conversations, we have Bredden. Bredden, don't really know too much about him. Very mysterious character, and he's very slick by seemingly just being genuine. Because even their little conversation they had when he was introduced, he's saying things and doing things in a certain way that could be looked at as, oh, he's clearly just going to try to glean some information off of Kvothe by doing what he's doing, like playing these games or whatever, and being nice to him, all that stuff. But for him to call it out and be like, here's my plan. And then at every turn, I mean, even towards the end, one of their end conversations where he was basically teaching Kvothe a few things about their like social etiquette, but he was doing it in a way where he wasn't teaching him. He was just saying, again, very, very, very thinly veiled advice, right? Of like, whoa, well, like, he would say everything, but but I mean, surely you already know all of this. You're just being nice and letting an old man ramble, blah, 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 right? So, helping him out very much. Again, all of this in a certain light and without him saying a few things blatantly could be very well seen as him just playing more games, right? Playing more games with Kvothe. But I think because of everything he has said, it does seem genuine, and it truly does seem like he's not really playing a game. He's just, maybe he's been doing this a long time, and he truly is just kind of, he has no use for these politics anymore, so he just kind of does what amuses him. I mean, like he said even some frivolous things like, oh, I even started to learn how to dance. Again, I think he's true. I think he is true in everything he's saying, and he is just kind of having fun at this point. But it is nice. He's teaching him tack, getting in there. I love that. The last thing Kvothe says is, next time we play, I'm gonna win. Thought that was funny because that's very, very much of like the confident and clever Kvothe that we know. Even though he probably won't beat him in the next game, he's not even close. But their little conversations, he even said like this has kept him from losing his mind before finally learning what Alvaron wanted from him. So it is nice to have a seemingly genuine person who is trying to help him, just for his own amusement, just for his own, his own boredom, right? He even said that there's really no one else that he can play with, that can have he can have an interesting game with. So it's nice. It's nice to have a character like that. So we will see. Again, I don't remember if this all turns out to be him trying to pull certain strings, aside from the very obvious ones that he even clearly stated himself of like, oh, if you move up in ranks, then I'll have a friend in those higher ranks, and if you don't move up, well, at least I'm spending some quality time playing a game that I love playing with someone that hopefully can make it entertaining for me. So aside from that, I don't remember if there is any like higher motives to this, or if it is just him. Again, he's just kind of like an older guy, and he's he spent his youth playing the politics and trying to get into certain positions, and now he's at a point where he doesn't need to do that anymore. But he's still in a certain position of power that gives him some freedom to do things like this. Yeah. And the last part of this Alvaron arc I wanted to talk about was Caudicus. Kvothe does go to him, remember, and he has a very clever lie, basically just a way for him to learn more about Meluan Lackless for Alvaron, whatever, right? The thing I want to pinpoint is a connection that I think we should all be made aware of. I feel like there's things every now and again that I just mention because it caught my eye, and if you missed it, I want you to be aware of it as well. He mentioned something about the Lackless, about how I think in their manor or something, they have a door that has no door handle or anything, no windows, like no way to open it. It's lockless. And I don't know if that's like where they got their name from or something, lackless, lockless, that sort of thing. I honed in on that because that sounds eerily similar to the 4-panel copper door in the university that Kvothe has obviously had among many other scribs, and just other students, I guess. But Kvothe in particular has had a very high level of curiosity regarding what's in there. How do you even open it? Does anyone know what's in there? Obviously, the masters have to. Why is there a door? Like, what's going on here? Even, I'm sure there's a lot of places in the universe that people don't know what's in there. But for there to be a door like this one, it's gotta be something special. So that just kind of, again, connected two dots that might not be connected in any way. I don't know that that's also a copper 4-panel door. It was just interesting to hear that, there's this rumor or whatever about this door that you can't get in or out of. Again, there's no door handle or anything. And we already are aware of a door, a pretty famous door that exists like that in the story. So maybe they're related in some way. Maybe they're not. I caught it, and I wanted to make sure we all caught it as well, so we could ponder it a little bit. Aside from that, because our feet are firmly planted in this Alvaron Ventus stuff. But there are other things that happen in the book. There are many chapters before this, before these. So we'll go through some of those. Let's see. Let's go with the gram. He did end up making the gram. It worked, and that was awesome. He did end up losing it with the shipwreck and all that, but I still want to mention it because that piece of magic has now been introduced and executed in this story, which means we might get another gram. We might get more grams. There might be some other events that a gram would be useful in, so it's nice that they introduced it. It obviously worked as well. It wasn't just like, oh, we got it. He used it for quite a while in this story, but I like the possibility now. Again, whenever anything is introduced, a new piece of magic, we always got to keep that in the back of our minds. It's like, how is he going to use it now? I'm sure he'll make another one. Again, we believe that, he did destroy the Mamet, which we'll talk about in a second. So he doesn't really have any fear anymore of Ambrose hurting him, even though Ambrose could have more blood or something of his. But will another gram ever come into play? Probably won't be the last time that Kvothe will get into trouble like that endangers his life. So we'll see. I'm glad that exists, though, in this world. Speaking of the Mamet, we did finally have the moment in which he gets his revenge on Ambrose, right? We had the whole scene where he saved, quote unquote, saved Ambrose's rooms from the fire, which he caused and destroyed a bunch of stuff, including the Mamet and some other stuff as well. He, not only that, he walked away with Denna's ring. Well, he got the slip, brought the slip to the pawn shop, got the ring back, and he also lifted 6 talons off of Ambrose. Just adding insult to injury there. A couple things to point out there. One, just destroying the Mamet, setting his rooms on fire, him playing it completely straight of like, oh wait, these are your rooms? Oh, if I knew these were your rooms, I wouldn't have sprung into action, basically. Dissolving himself of any guilt and any connection, and any of the witnesses would have been like, no, this man, this boy is probably the only person in the world that we can scratch off our list in terms of suspects if we believe that this fire was started by somebody and it wasn't just an accident. So very, very clever there. Again, going back and forth. Yeah. And talents, not really much to say there. I just wanted to note it because Kvothe is always in need of money. And so him stealing from Ambrose, someone who probably doesn't even recognize the talents, were gone. Denna's ring, though, that's an interesting thread because he finally got it back, which is great. It's awesome. We had the sadness, which was Denna's gone, so he can't return the ring. So he's just really, really wanting to return it because he wants to see the look on her face when she gets her ring back. And then in comes Devi. So now we're going to jump into another point. Here we go, right here, where Kvothe does make up with Devi. I was very happy for him for both of them, because I think they both truly do enjoy each other's company. to the fullest extent. And so them making up was awesome. Him sort of bringing the whole like plumb bob thing to him and be like, well, you did, it did cool them both off though and be like, okay, let's think about this rationally. We don't actually hate each other. We don't actually want to kill each other. There was just a very heated moment. Both of us got very emotional. Again, I like that Kvothe didn't hold the whole plumb bob thing over her head. For a second, I thought he was going to and be like, whoa, well, you did this, you know? But there was a line in there where he said, I'm not going to pretend that these two things I'm not going to pretend that these two things cancel each other out. But, I do think we can find a sort of equilibrium. And they did, they made up and everything. But I really like that from Kvothe because, again, I think it would have been very easy, very reckless, but very easy for him to be like, well, I did that and then you did that. Instead, he was like, listen, what I did was way worse. What I did to you was way worse than you doing the plumb bob stuff and indirectly having Ambrose hit me with it. I get it, but I think overall we've both done things that we probably shouldn't. Some things that we probably feel a little guilty about. So I think there is a way for us to move forward with this. And as again reckless and sometimes abrasive that Kvothe can be, I think that was done very well. So I think obviously Devi is a resource for him in a way because really the only Gallet that will deal with him. But also, like I said earlier, I think he does enjoy her company, the same way that she enjoys his. So that was nice. This all wraps back around to Dennis Ring because Dennis Ring, among a few other things, he gave to Devi as collateral. Really didn't want to, but that was the only way. And why is this important? Well, because now we see that Dennis here was not expecting to see Denna. I don't think anyone was expecting to see Denna. I think we could have guessed it and been like, especially in hindsight, it's like Denna always shows up in the craziest spots. When he went to Trebon, who was there? Denna. And not only was she there, she was integral to the crazy events that happened there, right? So in hindsight, again, it's like, of course, at this point, expect Denna to be anywhere. It's almost scary where it's like, is like fate a thing in these books? Are they somehow linked together in like a magical or some like fantastical way? Something to think about. But yeah, Denna is here, and if he had the ring, could have given it to her. I am interested to see if he says anything to her about it. If he's like, I got your ring back. I don't have it though. I had to lend it to someone for collateral to get money to come over here. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I would hope, because I know that he wants it to be a surprise, but I still think he should tell her and be like, hey, because it's going to be a good feeling when he finally gives it back to her. But I think even just in this moment, she's going to be very, very happy and be like, oh, you got the ring. That's crazy. Just like everything that he went through. I don't know if he's going to explain fully everything he went through, but, just kind of him knowing everything he went to and telling her and her being happy, even if he can't give it to her right now. It's going to be worth it, I think. What else do we have? Kvothe was brought in front of the Iron Law. Something, again, hindsight is 2020, right? In hindsight, it was gonna happen eventually. We know Kvothe. We know the danger he can get himself into. Kvothe is Kvothe's worst enemy. He is too clever for his own good, and he's brought for the Iron Law. And I was very confused when this was happening because they were like, they rattled off a bunch of stuff, including malfeasance, and I was thinking, like, when did the only thing I could remember of Kvothe committing malfeasance was against Devi, and I was thinking, like, did Devi finally I don't understand. Did Devi pull and this was after they squashed their beef, so I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And even if it was before, it still wouldn't make any sense. Like, why, like, they still have turn, and I think even if Kvothe never paid her back or whatever, like, one, she has like blood or whatever, and she would sell it and blah blah blah. Like, if they never got on good terms again, um, and two, I don't think, even if it went to that, I don't think she would ever call the constables or whatever on someone else to pull him up, to put him up in front of the iron law. Like, she would never do that. It's not just because it's Kvothe. I don't think I just don't think she would do that. There's a certain level of honor to what she does in a weird way. So yeah, I was so confused. I was like, oh, the wind thing. Yeah, because obviously we would think this is resolved because it was already brought up in front of the masters. They gave Kvothe his punishment, all that stuff. But Ambrose, man, it's what Ambrose does. I do like how quickly they went through it. It was a very interesting way for Kvothe to tell this part of the story, and to be like, it's not interesting. It's actually not interesting. Like, I'm not gonna talk about it. It's him even saying, like, oh, it's very well documented. You can go read that. Like, there's a bunch of people making arguments, having speeches, all this stuff. Like, I don't. It was tedious to live through, and it'd be tedious to retell. I'm not. It's not important. The important part is actually the ramifications of the case itself, not the proceedings. So, which then led to all this, right? They led to him being persuaded to take some time off from the university, and get to this for Alvaron, overseeing Denna and all this stuff. So it is like a black mark on his reputation, I think, and it does hurt the university temporarily. So again, it's the ramifications of the proceedings and not the proceedings themselves that are important. So it makes sense why Kvothe is telling the story this way. What else do we have? We do have Kvothe finally revealing his project. He reveals to Kilvin the arrow catch. I like it. I thought it was cool. I was a little scared though, because he is using the crossbow, and we know that those are illegal. I think his reasoning for it was very good. I like Kilvin though at the end of it, where he was like, the lantern, the first thing you made for me was a bad thing in a good way. This thing was a good thing in a bad way. I think making good things in a good way is best. Don't you agree? And he's like, yeah, okay, I gotcha. And he was able to take it from him, which hurts a little bit because Kvothe was trying to sell it back, but take it from him and be like, okay, it's mine, you borrowed it, it's going to be part of the stocks now, all that stuff. But the invention itself is pretty cool, right? It deflects arrows. For a second, I thought that Kilvin was going to scrutinize it in a similar way to the lantern, because the lantern, he was like, this is something that thieves use. It is more of like a devious type of invention, right? And for a second, I thought he was going to feel the same way about this, of like, but this is all in the same realm as like malicious intent. Like, can't you make something that doesn't have to be in the midst of danger? But he didn't. He saw it the complete opposite way, which is, this is something that can save lives. This is something that would actually be a very good look on the university and the Arcanum in general. Like, here's another example of why what we do can help people, which is awesome. It is the best way to spin this. So I enjoyed that very much. Very humble of Kvothe too. for him to propose a 8 talent price instead of the 25 talent price that Kilvin was doing. But again, I love Cole's reasoning where he was like, something that can protect people like this shouldn't be hard to get your hands on, right? And so people that might really need this might not have 25 talents to spend on it, you know. So let's bring down the price a little bit. Kilvin was nice enough to buy the first one at 25 talents, but you know, I do like Quo saying that, being like, yeah, this isn't, you know, this kind of goes to like real world stuff where it's like certain things in the real world that people need to survive way too expensive. Doesn't make any sense, you know. We understand that certain things, um, you know, there is supply and demand, but I feel like outside of that, there should be essentials and like life-saving things that are outside of that graph. Should be like, well, people should have this. You know, it shouldn't be so hard to get your hands on certain things like medicine, for example. But yeah. Just a couple things left. Fela. Fela knows the name of stone. To some extent. I don't know that she's mastered it, but she does know the name of stone. We do have a nice demonstration. Crushes the stone, all that stuff, gets her ring. Yeah. I thought that was really nice, you know. I would hope that this comes back around at some point. Maybe we'll see Fela break stone in some way that is important. I don't know. But you know, I thought it was cool. You know, I think this is kind of bringing us back and realizing that what Eladin is doing is actually helping, is actually teaching. I think Kvothe in particular has been very, very critical, you know, of his methods, and everyone else really is kind of frustrated with you know, the pace in which they're learning and what they feel like they aren't learning. And you know, in this case, it's like Fela's been taking my teachings incredibly well. Look at what she can do. And so now it kind of puts everyone else on blast of like, well, what can everyone else do? How much progress has everyone else been making? But it's a good thing for Fela again, man. You know, Kvothe is our main character, but I love to see good things happen to our side characters as well. You know, and more Fela's always good. She seems like a very good person, a very good friend to have. And so for her to be getting a W like this, nice to see. And then the last thing I got, possibly the most important thing, honestly, is the little girl Nina, who we saw in Trebin, who was the one that Kvothe gave the metal disc to, has come back and helped repay some of that goodness that he did, and came up with a print sort of thing of the vase, that because she was like, oh, I've dreamed about it a few times or something. Could only get one side, so I think she got like a third of it. But she like repainted what she remembered, and some good stuff. Nothing too crazy, I think. Some of the wording was really hard, so it's kind of hard to read. It was mostly like some of the pictures that were helpful, but even those, just like one, a couple of them were more obvious, but then there was the one at the end that was like the scariest one, and they're trying to maybe stop the Chandrian. Whatever it was a big help. It was something. I mean, even if it's not a first-hand account, it is something that exists that, I don't know, like leads to the proof of Chandrian, Again, it's tough because the Chandrian do everything in their power to erase all proof of them. Like that's the tragic event that has pushed Kvothe into the life and the story that we're reading right now, right? Is them killing his parents, his troop, because they were singing a song that had possibly some facts about them that they wanted nothing more than to erase from this planet. So even just having this, again, it's not anything that he can like bring to someone and be like, look, Chandrian are real, but it is a start, and it really is the only real, I don't know, proof. I guess again, it's not really proof, but it's really the only thing that exists that he feels holds any weight. Way more so than just like the fairy tales that he reads in like children's books, and it's like this doesn't do anything for me. Um, Again, this is a big reason why he loved going to Alvaron, because he's like, well, if anyone is going to have access to knowledge or books or anything like that about the Chandrian aside from the university, probably not a bad place to start. So, um, we will see. We will see. I would love to see Nina again. I don't remember if we ever see her again. Maybe she comes back and she's like, "Oh, I got it. I got a second side of the vase." I don't remember, but that was very cool. I wasn't expecting. That did answer the mystery of who this random girl was that was asking for against selling her a charm, and it's like, now that we know, it's like, wow, he didn't really sell you a charm, but any of the students there, or whatever, that would hear what she was saying, that's the connection they would make. It was totally innocent though, so we're nice to see her again. Again, it was very unexpected. Didn't expect to see her. Definitely didn't expect her to bring anything like this to him. So that was cool. Again, just kind of being reminded of the good stuff that Kvothe does, because I feel like a lot of what he does is for his own selfish purposes. Even though I guess the Chandrian stuff is still him being selfish, but a lot of it is just for his own selfish purposes. A lot of it is just stuff that he cleans up from himself, because again, he's too clever for his own good. So he is the source of a lot of his problems. But with this, it's like, oh, it actually helps someone. And again, even in that moment, if we jump back to the last book, that was what he even said to himself, where he was like, this right here, more so than killing the Dracus that was terrorizing, like even more so than that, this moment, helping this girl and making it so she isn't gonna feel scared to live her life, to like go to sleep, all this stuff. That's what makes me feel like a hero. Um, so that was nice. But that is it. That is it for this section. Next time we will get into chapters 61 through 90, the next 30 chapters. Predictions, or just anything we expect to see next time. Obviously more Denna. That was a big cliffhanger on this section, right? Chapter 60. Expect to see more of her. Expect to catch up. That'd be very nice. Hopefully good news about her patron. Hopefully some good stuff there. Cole's catching her up on everything that he's doing. That would be nice. And just seeing her in general is always cool. Aside from that, hopefully, like I said, the poison is poison and it does work on those birds, and he's able to convince Alvaron, because the alternative is a broken relationship, a burnt bridge, multiple burnt bridges actually. He'll burn the bridge with Alvaron and anyone that he has in contact. Probably burn his bridge with Threp as well, because Threp is already doing way more than he needs to. Actually, everything he's doing is more than he needs to when it comes to Kvothe. He is not Kvothe's patron. Aside from that, again, 30 chapters is a long time. I don't remember, and obviously no spoilers, but I don't remember, like, is the whole rest of the book here in Ventus? Do we see more? Because again, like, you could easily say, oh, well, clearly it is. Like, this is a whole new section for him. This is the book now. But we've already seen, like, the previous 30 chapters, chapters 1 through 30. It's like that felt like its own thing, and now this feels like its own thing. It's like we still have, altogether for this book, we still have 90 chapters left. So it's like that's so much time, to the point where we can tell a full story in Ventus and still have way more book left over to tell, like, a new arc. I just don't remember. What else? Yeah, I don't really know because again we've kind of been cut off from the university now, so it really is just Quoth and what Quoth's doing. I mean, maybe we'll see some, him get some more information on the Chandrian. Like if this poisoning stuff goes right, or I guess in his favor of gaining the trust, maybe then he will, you know, Alvaron will be like, oh yes, I have my own library actually, and it's like a gigantic, crazy thing, and maybe Quoth does get more information on the Chandrian and the Emir that he wants. Um, yeah, that's really it. Because again, we've been cut off from the majority of our cast, where it's like, are we going to see more of anyone at the university again? You know, what more does this book hold? I don't know. Is it just Ventus, or do we go back to university? I don't know. But that is it, I suppose. Let me know what you thought of these past 30 chapters. Any predictions for the next 30 chapters? And yeah, that is it. Till next time, read 31 through 60. And yeah, that is it.